Greetings. This is D Coyote, producer of this channel. And before we let the video rip, I just wanted to set the stage. Because this video, stylized as it may be, is based off a night in my own life. It was one of those nights that marked my coming of age. At a little past the tender age of 22, I found myself amidst the hazy charm of pool halls, a world where smoke hung thick in the air, and the murmur of seasoned players filled the room. Those reckless days of youth, with smoky bars and life lessons at every corner. So here's a nod to those times, a reenactment if you will. And while we're at it, a special tribute to Old Man Earl. Not his real name, of course, but his wisdom. That's very much real and echoes in my heart even now. Enjoy the video.
In a dimly lit bar tucked away from the bustling currents of life, jazz blended with the subdued chatter, and he sat, a glass of bourbon resting in his seasoned hands. It wasn't for drowning sorrows, but rather to punctuate his contemplative moments. The younger onlookers eyed him with a mix of curiosity and reverence, silently seeking some profound insight. Recognizing their silent plea, he leaned back and began to indulge them. Young ones, if you glean one thing from this seasoned traveler, let it be this: war, battles, conflict. They transcend the mere shedding of blood, the true confrontations. He gestured towards his head, a glimmer of experience in his eyes. They unfold here. A master strategist has claimed victory even before the first move. He's the one playing chess while the rest are entangled in checkers. And those eager souls who plunge headfirst without forethought, merely lambs queuing up for their inevitable fate. He paused to sip, letting his words permeate their minds. Their rapt attention told him they were hooked. It all boils down to this: rein in those tempestuous emotions. Command the present, mold it to your will. Visualize your endgame, chart its course, and by all that's sacred, play by the odds. Life's not a mere roll of the dice, it's a game of calculated risks. If your destination remains veiled in fog, retreat, reassess, evolve. As every seasoned chess player will attest, a move's only as good as its envisioned endgame. Another sip, the saxophone's melodies echoing his sentiments, bridging the gap between yesteryears and now. Plunging into the depths of strategy is akin to diving into an abyss. Its expanse is boundless. An art, it seamlessly merges the immediate with the infinite, enabling you to discern patterns, anticipate moves, and wield the scepter of foresight. As anticipation thickened the air, he went on, and the allure of commanding legions. It lies in distilling complexity. Whether you're leading a few or a vast multitude, it's about imbibing a shared ethos, a collective purpose. He paused, a playful smirk gracing his lips. The intricate ballet of directness and subterfuge. Life, war, relations. Discerning when to tread the direct path, when to meander. That's the art. Direct confrontation has its charm, but occasionally letting one believe they've drawn their own conclusions. That's the spell. It's not trickery. It's a deep comprehension of the human soul. Drawing them in with a conspiratorial hush, he whispered, "Energy, my friends, is your ace. Channel it, nurture it, unleash it with surgical precision. Sense the world's rhythm. Recognize when a soul is ablaze or merely a shadow of its essence. It's tangible, not mere abstract philosophy. Master this and you become an unstoppable force." A hush enveloped the room, leaving just him and the seductive lull of jazz. But always bear in mind, chaos is mere smoke and mirrors. Amidst perceived pandemonium, there's an underlying pattern. It's the seasoned warrior's gift to decipher order amidst bedlam. It's the hallmark of a true tactician. Lifting his glass, the amber nectar catching fleeting glints of dim light, he proposed, "Dive headfirst into the tempest. Let it transform you. On emerging, you'll be wiser, more strategic. And trust this seasoned soul. It's a pilgrimage of a lifetime." Sensing the electric charge in the air, he motioned for another round. The younger crowd clung to every word while the older folks nodded in agreement, their life's tales etched deep. The room was alive with resonance, and he reveled in its energy. "Always remember," he began, letting the bourbon swirl. "Being a strategist isn't about emotional detachment. It's about harnessing those emotions, fueling your drive. That very fire that spurs on an artist, a maestro. It's raw passion channeled with intent." Drawing a deep breath, he mused, "Some might wonder, why this discourse on strategy? Why not let life unfold? But consider this. Even the seemingly aimless flow of water shapes valleys, grinds down mountains. There's an inherent strategy in its ease. Each droplet, every ripple serves a higher purpose. He caught a hint of skepticism in a young man's eyes across the bar. Probably a rebel, much like I was in my younger days. You. The young fella gave me that squinty look. Do you play pool? A slight nod. Good. You know how in pool sometimes it's not about pocketing the ball, but positioning it just right for the next shot. Life's much the same. Every move, every decision should be setting you up for the next, even bigger one. It's a cascading sequence of intent. He could see them mulling over my words, chewing on the analogies and their skepticism beginning to wane. The hook was set. But you don't get there overnight, he warned, casting his gaze across the audience. This understanding, this fingertip feel of your environment, the strategies at your disposal, it all comes with experience. With every scar, every victory, every loss you learn. You evolve. His voice softened. Do not fear the chaos or the battles. Embrace them. For within their crucible, you are forged, molded. The confusion, the disorder, they're not your enemies. They're your teachers. And when the dust settles, when you emerge, it's not just as a victor, but as a sage, a philosopher, a maestro of life's grand orchestra. There was a pregnant pause. Time seemed to stretch. Then in a mere whisper I concluded, in the end, the real journey is inward. The world is but a reflection of our internal landscapes. Master yourself, and you master the world. Young bloods, he began. There's a tempting allure to peace, to predictability, but it's within chaos, that tempestuous whirlwind of disorder, that true opportunities arise. It's in those unpredictable waters where you see the fabric of the universe, the patterns within the storm. Sun Tzu, that old sage, he had it right. You show up first, you set the tone. By the time the other guy stumbles in, you've already got the rhythm of the dance, and they're just trying to catch up. He leaned forward, his eyes flashing with an intensity that belied his age. It's all about the vibe, about controlling the dynamics. The moment you step into a room, a negotiation, a deal, hell, even a date. If you aren't steering the ship, you're driftwood. Control the dynamics or someone else will, and trust me, they won't be gentle. Taking a deep breath, he continued. Preparation is the secret sauce. Think ahead, plan for every twist, every possible scenario. And I ain't just talking about the specifics of a deal. It's the mind, the body, the spirit. It's what you had for breakfast, the music you listened to on your way in, the last conversation you had. All these things, they shape your energy when you show up. He chuckled. Now don't get me wrong. It ain't always about taking the path of least resistance. No. Sometimes you've got to dive headfirst into the chaos, to shake things up, to clear your head. But there's a time and place for that. When the stakes are high, you want to be gliding in, zen-like, prepared. The strategist's voice grew soft, yet every ear strained to catch his words. Every move you make in life, every choice, it's like a chess game. The board, the pieces, they change, but the game, it's the same. Whether you're talking business, love, or war, it's about finding the weak spots, the vulnerabilities. Today we've got technology, all kinds of fancy tools to do the digging for us. But sometimes the oldest methods are the best. A conversation, a connection. People spill more secrets over a drink than any computer ever could uncover. He leaned back, swirling his drink. Most folks, they look at the surface, at the here and now. They see the moves, but not the strategy behind them. And that's where they lose. Being strategic, it's like having a sixth sense. It's seeing the waves before they crash, feeling the storm before the first drop of rain. The room seemed to hang on his every word, the ambience humming with the weight of contemplation. The soft clinking of glasses and the distant hum of conversation gave the place an ethereal quality, a bubble separated from the chaos of the outside world. You know, he began again, pausing to light a cigar, every era, every generation believes it's faced with unprecedented chaos. But chaos is as old as time. What changes is our approach, our ability to navigate the storm. He blew out a long stream of smoke, watching it twirl and dissipate. There's this delusion, he continued, that if we just repeat what worked once, we're guaranteed success. But life, the marketplace, people, they aren't stagnant. You find one vulnerability, exploit it, and then move on. Because tomorrow, that vulnerability might not exist. With a glint in his eye, he mused, there's an art to this, a finesse. It ain't just about having the right data or the sharpest tool. It's about reading the room, sensing the undercurrents, and sometimes, just sometimes, it's about letting go, about knowing when a strategic loss will pave the way for a greater victory. The old strategist leaned forward, locking eyes with a young entrepreneur at the bar, eager to soak in the wisdom. You there, you think your competitors are only the ones with the flashy offices and the impressive titles. Think again. Your biggest competition sometimes is the person staring back at you in the mirror. Your own doubts, fears, triggers. They can throw you off course faster than any external enemy. He sighed deeply, taking another sip of his whiskey. The digital age, it's given us tools, ways to peer into the world of our competitors like never before. But always remember this, tech can give you the how, maybe even the what, but the why, that always comes from the human heart, from those intangible connections. His gaze grew distant, recalling battles won and lost. Victory and defeat, they're two sides of the same coin. But it's the strategy, the game plan, that elusive force that drives us forward, that truly matters. Most folks, they'll see your moves, applaud your tactics, maybe even try to mimic them. But your true strategy, if you're doing it right, they'll never even glimpse it. He smirked, a mischievous glint playing on his lips. You know, there's a reason why the greats always seem a little unpredictable, a tad eccentric. Because to truly dance with chaos, to harness its power, you've got to be willing to step off the well-trodden path, to forge your own. Young blood, let me tell you about victory. It's not just about conquering one mountain, no. It's about spanning entire ranges, valleys, and the treacherous terrains. It's about expanding your horizons beyond what you know, diversifying your battlefields. You win in one domain. Don't just plant your flag and get comfy. No, you gotta push. Push past your craft, past the boundaries. It's about evolving every damn day. His gaze fixed into the distance, a knowing smirk lining his face. Life, it's fluid. It's not static. You know what I mean? You gotta be like water. And yeah, I know Bruce Lee said it, but it's true. Every circumstance, every foe, it's different. There ain't no constant rules of engagement. You find yourself in unfamiliar territory. You adapt. Don't curse the winds when they change. Adjust your damn sails. He leaned forward, the weight of his years and wisdom pressing in. And let me tell you, getting riled up, offended because the world didn't lay out the red carpet for your grand plan. That's for the weak. Real players. They shift with grace. They change course with the elegance of water. Water's powerful, mate, not because of its force, but because of its persistence. It carves out paths, creates canyons, not by sheer strength, but by relentless motion. Tapping the ash off his cigarette, he continued, "Don't be that clueless lad leading troops without a clue about the battleground. Know your terrain, not just by studying maps, but by being there, feeling the dirt beneath your boots, sensing the pulse of the place. Actions, they have consequences. They stir the pot, but that's good. A stirred pot shows you where the currents lie, lets you gauge your next move." His voice lowered, almost conspiratorial. "Operate in the shadows. Let the world see only what you want them to see. Real power moves are made in silence. Don't be a blabbermouth about your tactics, about your strategies. Keep them guessing. When you strike, strike hard, like a bolt from the blue, out of nowhere. There are pitfalls for the unwary, general recklessness, cowardice, a short fuse, being too touchy about honor. These, my friend, can be your undoing. Always be prepared. Don't rest on your laurels or underestimate the enemy, because if you are ready, really ready the enemy, they'll think twice, and just maybe they'll turn tail and run, knowing they've met their match." Then Old Man Earl stood up and stretched for a moment. His back creaked audibly, a testament to the many battles, both literal and figurative, he had seen. A half smile played on his lips as he poured himself another glass of aged whiskey, letting the amber liquid catch the dim light. "You see," he began, swirling the liquid around, "the battles we face aren't just physical. They're mental, spiritual, emotional. And in every fight, adaptation is key. The moment you believe you've got it all figured out is the moment you're most vulnerable." Letting the burn of the whiskey punctuate his words. When you're out there in the real world, it's not just about being the strongest or the fastest. Nah, it's about being the most adaptable. It's about reading the room, the environment, sensing the subtle shifts and responding. Not reacting, mind you. Responding. There's a difference. He set the glass down, his fingers drumming rhythmically on the table. Over the years, I've seen many a young gun come and go, consumed by their own hubris. They wear their plans on their sleeves, making a spectacle of their every move. But life, my friend, is a game of shadows and mirrors. In a world filled with noise, the power of silence is unparalleled. Your biggest achievements, the most groundbreaking moves you make, should be hidden from plain sight, reserved for when they have the maximum impact. He leaned in closer, the intensity in his eyes palpable. You ever watch a predator? The way it moves stalks its prey. It doesn't announce its intentions. It waits, watches, learns. And when it strikes, it's swift, unexpected, and lethal. That's how you should be. Not reckless but calculated, not loud but impactful. He paused, his gaze drifting to the window, where the first hints of dawn began to pierce the night. Remember, kid, as the day unfolds, so do people's spirits. Attack when they least expect it. Surprise is a weapon sharper than the sharpest blade. And never ever underestimate the value of studying moods, of sensing the right moment. It's an art, really. But do you know what's wrong with so-called leaders these days? It's a damn sham. People prance around playing dress-up, thinking that donning the title of a leader makes them one. A leader doesn't hide behind titles. They go first. They enforce the goddamn habits and systems needed to keep the machine running. Consistency. That's the real currency of respect. An army's strength isn't in its weapons or numbers. It's in its discipline. But when that slips, when there's a crack, respect dissipates. You can't run a show on good faith alone. Motioning with his hands for emphasis, he leaned forward. But it's a double-edged sword, my friend. A general might trust his men, but orders are orders for a reason. It ain't about shackles and chains. It's about guidance, direction. You trust your troops, but you need to have your damn finger on the pulse. Know what they're up to, even as you believe in their autonomy. He paused, taking a deep sip from his drink, then pointed outside, where the shadows grew long and dark. You've got to understand the beast of human nature, anticipate it, and outsmart it. You can't cage it, but you can damn well direct its course. His gaze intensified. Now listen closely. There will be times when the rules, the very orders that bind us, they'll need to be broken. Sometimes victory demands it. If breaking a damn rule brings home the win, you break it. But you don't do it recklessly. You need judgment, understanding of the field. Being on the ground, feeling the dirt beneath your boots. Sometimes you see things the folks up top can't. And when you do, you act, even if it's against the playbook. He chuckled. But here's the kicker. You've got to treat your men like family. Not the kind you see during the holidays and pretend to like, no. Think of them as your flesh and blood, as your legacy. You show them love, respect. Push them to outdo you even. Because ironically, when they know you truly care, they'll stick around. They'll stand with you till the bitter end. Waving a hand dismissively, Earl said, So many bosses out there have it wrong. Clinging to their people, fearing they'll leave, building golden cages. All the while, the key to loyalty isn't in chains, but in genuine care. He straightened up. Knowing your enemy, knowing yourself, that's the bedrock of strategy. Before you dive into the fray, you must know the lay of the land. Understand the strengths and weaknesses on both sides. You don't charge blindly. You plan, strategize, redirect their attention, and attack when they least expect. With a weary sigh, he concluded, Life's a battlefield, and sometimes you have to push yourself and your people to the very brink. Put them in a spot where the only way out is through. Only then will you see their true mettle. But remember, balance is key. Keep your feet on the ground, your head clear of doubts, especially the superstitious kind. It's all smoke and mirrors, distractions. Stay focused, stay sharp. That's the ticket. As the evening grew into late night, the atmosphere inside the pub was still electric, a palpable buzz of contemplation and admiration for Old Man Earl's musings. The old jukebox in the corner played a forgotten tune from a bygone era, almost as if the very walls of the establishment were leaning in to listen. Earl, now having the attention of all, pressed on, tapping the ash from his cigarette into the old tin ashtray. You know what they say about omens and superstitions, right? Hocus pocus, all of it. People looking for signs in every damn thing. Oh, that black cat crossed my path. Better not make that deal. Or, I found a penny, today's my lucky day. Hogwash. Leaning in closer, his voice lowered to a conspiratorial whisper. Now, I'm not saying you should dismiss every sign or omen. If you feel it in your gut, if it pushes you forward, then by all means, ride that wave. But the moment it starts holding you back, doubting your purpose, your drive, cast it aside. Doubt is a silent killer, my friend. It's a slow poison, and it's all in the mind. He paused, taking a moment to let that sink in, letting the ambience of the pub's dim lights and soft murmurs fill the gap. People fear change, uncertainty, the unknown, he continued. But I've been around the block a few times, and I've seen how this fear can stagnate, trap you in a never-ending loop of what-ifs. You get comfortable, complacent. But you know where true growth lies. It's in the chaos, in the challenges. It's when you're backed into a corner with no way out. That's when you truly discover what you're made of. He pointed to a young lad sitting a few stools away, looking somewhat lost in thought. You, with the world ahead of you, don't fall for the trap of routine, of playing it safe. The world's a vast place, filled with opportunities and pitfalls. But no matter the situation, no matter how dark the alley, always remember one thing: trust yourself. A chorus of murmurs in agreement swept through the room. Earl had that knack, an uncanny ability to speak universal truths in a language that resonated with everyone, regardless of age or background. As for me, he mused with a nostalgic twinkle in his eye, I've been through wars both literal and figurative. I've seen empires rise and fall, friendships solidify and shatter. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that life is a series of battles. Some you win, some you lose, but you always learn. And if you're smart, you come out stronger, wiser, and ready for the next round. The weight of his words settled over the room, stirring emotions and evoking silent introspection. And with that, he said with a sly smile, I believe I've earned another drink. He motioned to the bartender, who promptly poured him another, nodding in respect. Let me tell you something about the sneaky infiltration of doubt into the mind, dear friends. I've seen it happen all too many times, like a quiet, relentless whisper that gnaws away at the soul. When the seed of doubt takes root, you start second-guessing your every move, sabotaging your own success. But here's the rub: victory. It's a state of mind. See, you've got to keep that internal compass pointed to win. Recognize the obstacles, sure, but don't let them make you doubt yourself. You've got to wear those challenges like a damn badge of honor. And while we're on the subject, let's talk strategy. Not that stale routine play we've all seen 100 times, but real dynamic maneuvers. The element of surprise, my friend. If you're in a game, and believe me, life's one big unpredictable game, you've got to keep them guessing. If they think they've got your number, change the digits. It's the art of unpredictability, the dance of deception. But remember, this ain't about vanity. It's strategy. You're not doing it for applause. You're doing it for results. I've seen countless folks stuck in the limelight, feeding off validation like it's oxygen. But that's not where real moves are made. The grand masters of life, they operate from the shadows. Let the world see only what you want it to see, and nothing more. Hell, toss them a bone now and then. Let them chase their tails while you're out there making the real magic happen. Ever heard of opportunity knocking? Well, sometimes it doesn't knock, sometimes it just cracks the door open a smidge, and you've got to have the damn good sense to kick it wide open. Waiting for a neon sign flashing, now's your chance. You'll be waiting forever. Life's too short to not take those shots, to not pounce on those golden moments. And speaking of fights, oh boy, don't even get me started. I've been in my share of brawls, both the literal and the metaphorical kind. Here's the gospel truth. You don't pick a fight unless there's a damn good reason. And you especially don't pick fights you ain't sure you can win. Remember, every battle, every spat and showdown, they cost you time, energy, peace of mind. Ask yourself, is it worth the price? Look, I'm not saying turn tail and run every time things get hot. But you've got to be savvy about where you throw down. A real strategist, a true kingpin. They can win a war without ever drawing a sword. They play it smart. They choose their moments. I've lived long enough to know that life, business, love, it's all a game of chances and choices. Sometimes you charge ahead, other times you lie in wait. But always, always, move with purpose and panache. Remember, in this grand game, it's always better to be the chess player than the pawn. You don't get to be my age without seeing some things, without accumulating a little dirt under the nails and a few scars on the heart. This world is brimming with hustlers and posers, each one trying to outwit the other. And then there's the quiet schemer, sitting in the back, eyes sharp, waiting for the perfect moment. Life in many ways is like a marketplace, my friend. It's crowded, noisy, and everyone's trying to sell you something. A dream, a shortcut, a lie. But the real magic, it's in the details, in the fine print. It's in the gaps and spaces between the shouts and the hustles. That's where you find your chance, your edge. When they're all zigging, you zag. I've met those high and mighty types, the ones who believe they've got it all figured out. You know the sort. Flashy suit, louder voice. But here's a secret. Their armor, it's always got chinks. Every titan has an Achilles heel. Every fortress a back door. Your job, find it. Not to exploit for the sake of exploitation, but to understand the lay of the land. Understand where you stand and where they falter. Now don't get me wrong, I ain't advocating for some shady maneuvering or backstabbing. There's a code, a creed. Play hard, play smart, but always play fair. That's the trick. The world remembers how you made your way to the top, not just that you got there. Every opportunity that comes knocking or even just whistling past, you've got to measure it. Not all gold glitters, and not every battle is worth the blood and sweat. Sometimes the smartest move is to simply watch, wait, and bide your time. Because timing, it's everything. When you're young, there's this fire, this urge to charge at every windmill, confront every challenge head on. But age, it teaches patience. It teaches discernment. You learn the difference between a skirmish and a war, between a fleeting moment and a tide-turning opportunity. I've danced with danger, I've sung with sirens, and I've dined with devils. But through it all, there's one thing I've held on to, my sense of self. It's easy to lose yourself in the noise, the chaos, the endless maze of choices and chances. But that core, that essence, you've got to guard it, cultivate it. Life is this grand, wild, maddening ride, and there's no roadmap, no playbook. But if there's one thing I can impart, it's this. Stay true, stay sharp, and never ever stop playing the game. Because the moment you do, the game starts playing you. And let me tell you about the most misleading piece of advice ever handed down to eager ears. When in doubt, do nothing. Sounds simple, right? But that little nugget boy, that's been my compass through a sea of chaos. He leaned in, his voice dropping a conspiratorial octave. We humans, we overthink things. Hell, we overthink everything. A straightforward phrase, a mere 7 words, and we turn it into a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. But as the years stack up, as the world gets more intricate and our plays more advanced, the wisdom in those words shines brighter. He took a contemplative sip of his drink, eyes never leaving mine. Imagine life as this elaborate chessboard. At any moment you could move left, right, or charge straight ahead. But the true game, it's not in the movement, it's in the pause, the breath you take before making your move. It's in the doubt. Doubt isn't just indecision, it's the universe whispering in your ear, asking if you've considered all the angles. But here's the kicker, he continued with a smirk. We're all spies in this game, every single one of us. Some are locals, the ones who play on home turf, familiar faces in familiar places. Others, they're the insiders, wolves in sheep's clothing, blending in with the enemy. There's the converted ones, those turned to play for the other team. And then, the most cunning of them all, the ones who fake it, the decoys, who lead you astray with their open deceit. And lastly, the survivors, the ones who've seen it all, been through the grind, and lived to tell the tale. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. It's all a dance, my friend, a ballet of deception, strategy, and wit. Know your enemy, they say, but the greatest enemy, it ain't sitting across the board. It's staring right back at you in the mirror. Your own worst enemy, your ego. The shadow that clouds judgment and blurs lines. You might think I'm paranoid, rambling even, he chuckled, the sound raspy like old parchment. But this ain't about paranoia. This is about staying sharp, being 2 steps ahead, not just of your opponents, but of your own damned self. This world, it's a chessboard and everyone's playing even when they think they aren't. He leaned back, stretching out his legs, looking almost relaxed. So next time doubt creeps in, let it simmer, reflect on it. Because boy, in that doubt lies the very essence of strategy. When there's no doubt, you act. When there is, you wait. It's that simple. And while you're at it, keep an eye out for the spies. They're everywhere. And sometimes the most dangerous ones are the ones you send out. And with that, Old Man Earl grabbed his coat, his hat, and sauntered out the bar. He even managed to make walking Tipsy look like an expert exercise.